Hello there, board people, and welcome to Big Ben Builds. Today, as the title suggests, I'm going to build this. Now, I'm not going to say what it is, I'm going to let you figure it out, and then I'll tell you what it actually is. Because I tell you what, it isn't what it is. Anyway. Now, you might have noticed that it is Chinese. This is a Chinese toy puzzle, if that's what you think is basically like a knockoff rocker or OKR. It's not hard, but it's not easy. It's not really for like too younger of a kid. There's no gluing, it's all like snapped together, but you know, a little bit too much force and things will break. Well, there we go. Let's get going. So we're going to start building the tower. The actual tower segment was built in 1859. Was at the time the clock, the 4-face clock was the most accurate in the world. The tower was 96 meters tall, that's from the bottom all the way to the pier at the top, or the spire even. The dials in the clock are like 7 meters in diameter. They give you an idea of how big this thing is, especially if you consider they were building it like 160 odd years ago. And each 4 corners of the tower actually represents one of the 4 nations of the UK, which were a rose for England, the thistle for Scotland, the shamrock for Northern Ireland, and the leek for Wales. I don't know why it's a leek, but it's a leek for Wales. Now, this was quite simple to build, especially the instructions, which covered about 2 pages, and that was it. I mean, you compare that to a Lego model, it's like night and day. But you do kind of get a little bit scared because this wood is not the strongest of woods, and a little bit too much pressure and it could snap. So I had to be very delicate. This is actually the second time I tried. I didn't show you the first time because it was a disaster. But, you know, I did do it in the end. Within reason, anyway. An interesting thing about the tower, something I found out, was actually it does actually lean. Now, it ain't no leaning Tower of Pisa, but it does actually lean. It doesn't lean much, but again, it's leaning. Now, we're talking only like 55 meters above, maybe around 9 inches of lean, slightly to the northwest. I think all the excavation they've done underneath for the new subway lines actually moved it even more. Like the Jubilee Line extension in the 90s, like they had to pump thousands of tons of concrete into the foundations of the tower just to make sure that it doesn't have any more excessive lean. And now they reckon that it won't be another problem for about 4,000 to 10,000 years. So I think we're pretty safe with that one. Okay, so there's the tower built. Didn't take me too long at all. Only about, I want to say, 20 minutes. But here we go, we're going to move on to now the Belfry. So the Belfry, as you probably know, sits above the actual clock faces on the tower, and inside here is where you're actually going to find 5 separate bells. There isn't just one big bell, there is 5 separate bells. If you've ever heard the chimes of Big Ben and the associated clocks with it, it actually plays like the Westminster theme. It plays that theme every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes past the hour, and of course just before it strikes the actual hour. Now, there's only 4 small little bells that actually sit above the main bell, which is called Big Ben, and they sound out the Westminster tune. Now, I'm not going to sing it because I don't think your ears deserve that kind of torture, but there are actually words which I will put in the description of what those bells actually are sounding out. And then the big finale really is Big Ben's actual striking of the hour. She's the big bell that's right in the middle of the Belfry. She's very, very heavy, she's very, very old, and she does actually have a crack in her. There's actually a crack formed because when the bell maker said use a certain type of hammer and only a certain distance to strike, they went bigger and they went further, and eventually actually snapped and cracked the bell. It was salvageable, and they did actually went with the actual maker's suggestion of a smaller hammer and a shorter distance, and ever since then it's made the same noise for 150 years, barring those renovations that happened in the beginning of 2017. Oh look, tea time. Time for tea. So now we move on to the actual building of the clock. The clock is just called the Great Clock, and the tower used to be called the Clock Tower. It is now actually got a name. It's called Elizabeth Tower, named for Queen Elizabeth II's Jubilee in 2012. Before that, it was actually just called the Clock Tower, although officially it was actually Stephen's Tower. Now, Big Ben, like I said, is the name of the big bell that chimes on the hour. When you see pictures of the tower with the clock, you never actually see Big Ben. So even though, thousands and thousands of people come to see Big Ben, inverted commas, no one actually sees Big Ben. It's actually very rare to get an invitation to go and see the bell. Like, we're talking Michelle Obama kind of popularity and status before you're allowed to go up and see the bell. It's reserved for the very few. So the actual clock itself, if you've ever seen a picture of the face, it is actually in all Roman numerals, very typical of the time it was built in the 19th century. And actually, if you look at the base of every dial, there is Latin inscription, which I'll put in the description, in the comment section. DOMINE, SALVAM, REGINAM, NOSTRAM, VICTORIAM, PRIMAM, which means something like, "Oh Lord, keep safe our Queen Victoria I." I suppose now really it should be changed to DOMINE, SALVAM, REGINAM, NOSTRAM, Elizabeth Secundus, so Elizabeth II. And the actual hands themselves are pretty long. The hour hand, is 2.7 meters long, and the minute hand is 4.3 meters long, and that's on all four corners. So here comes a very bad moment in this build, and that was when the wood snapped on me. Like I said about pressure. Oh look, snap. So I was going to glue it back on, but unfortunately I did have a slight problem with the glue they supplied. What the So moving on, yes, I just kept on going. I'm sure one piece of wood wasn't going to break it too much, although I did actually break two of them. But either way, it's going to sit at the top, there isn't much pressure on it. My mistake. Whoops. So now finally we're building the foundation. Again, this was a pretty easy part. It's just 4 pieces of wood and another piece of wood, so that would be 5 pieces of wood. And you literally just have to put it around, and one of these has the Big Ben written on it, which again, like I said, is wrong. It should be Elizabeth Tower or the Clock Tower or Stephen Tower. You don't actually, there's no actual wooden bell with this kit. There's nothing to do with Big Ben on it at all. Oh, so there we go. Yep, it was actually getting a little bit large, so I did have to reposition the other camera. Oh my god, there was that ugly mug in there as well. Jesus. Yeah, took a little bit of fiddling with. You're lucky this is a sped up video. It did actually take a while. Come on, man, get it on there. Stop looking so serious. I think this is where I noticed I actually had the corners put on wrong, which you might be able to catch, but honestly, if you can't see it, then it didn't happen. And there you have it, in all their glory, Elizabeth Tower. Not Big Ben, not Big Ben, Elizabeth Tower, or just the Clock Tower, as I've always called it. And yeah, I can't really tell what time is on there either. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. If you want me to build something, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. But thanks for watching, and just remember to like me and subscribe. Ta-ta.